Do you guys know? Do you know that officer that you have in the office with you, the one that passes you in the hall, that is pissed off all the time at everything, the one that groans and grumbles and complains about every aspect of the job, about the facility, the officer that thinks about a conversation of mental health is meaningless. Well, today, me and my guest here that I'm going to introduce in a second, we're going to talk about a tactic, a way to just shut that shit down. But first. But first, I got to mention something. I got to pull it up here in a second. Thank you for joining us tonight on the live. I want to pull something up. It's the anniversary, March 23rd. Terrible event, Anamosa, Iowa. And I want to read you just a little something. This was posted. I'm going to read it off the Iowa Correctional Officers Facebook page, but it's posted on every Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter group for correctional officers. It says, on March 23rd, two inmates were both serving lengthy sentences for robbery inside of Iowa Anamosa State Penitentiary. And they planned to make an escape. The pair were part of a prison maintenance program and entered the infirmary's break room under the guise of repairing equipment. Once inside, they smashed through the glass window with hammers and then used grinding tools to try to cut through the bars. Now, why am I telling you this? Why do we want to talk about what's going on? Well, because this job, this profession that we're in is a life or death profession. Like every time I don't know if you understand this or not, but every time you put on your uniform, you walk through those gates, you walk into your facility, it's life or death. These guys and these gals, they're playing for keeps. So these two guys, they got these tools, they're trying to cut through the bar, they're trying to escape. And Correctional Officer Robert McFarland and nurse Lorena Shulte disregarded their own personal safety and heroically tried to stop the inmates. During the incident that was described by officials as pure evil, the inmates proceeded to brutally bludgeon both Robert and Lorena to death with their hammers. They suffered numerous fatal blows in the back of their heads. Another inmate rushed to Robert and Lorena's side to render aid, but he too was badly beaten. The suspects took a third employee hostage who tried to help their fellow colleague before they were eventually subdued and taken into custody. This, I just want to offer my condolences, my thoughts, my prayers to our brothers and sisters that work in the Iowa State Penn system, Anamosa in particular, but to correctional officers all over the world who are listening, who are seeing, who are reading things like this, because what happens to one of us happens to all of us. And things like this, and this is something that me and my guest here are going to get into in just a second, but things like this really don't just affect the people that are involved. It has a ripple effect all throughout our profession. And so I want to offer again my condolences, my love, my support to our brothers and sisters in Iowa and all over the world. My heart breaks and bleeds for you guys tonight. We love you. And I don't ever want to read another one of these ever again. So just real quick, I want everybody watching, everybody listening, whether you're on the live, whether you're watching the replay, throw some blue hearts in the chat, some support for our brothers and sisters in Iowa. I'll give you just a second to do this. I'm gonna transfer over here. Blue hearts in the chat. Thank you very much. All right. In case you didn't know, it's on the screen. I'm William Young, and tonight I have a treat, right? Not like a zero bar treat, not like a fruitcake treat, but an actual real deal treat. A guest, a fellow correctional officer and advocate for the mental health and wellness of correctional officers, so a man after my own heart. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Joey V. Joe, welcome to the channel, buddy.
What's up, buddy? How you doing? I didn't know. I didn't know it was a treat. That threw me off. Thank you for that.
Yes, you are a gluten-free, low-cal treat, and I appreciate you being on the show. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, brother. Thanks for having me. How are you? You good?
I'm terrible, and no, this is the highlight. This is listen, sitting down and talking about this kind of stuff, interacting with fellas like yourself,
Yep.
officers like yourself, is really it motivates me. It keeps me going. We talk a lot about purpose and why you know, why do we go through the things that we go through, and conversations like we're about to have. Thanks for the blue hearts in the comments, guys. Conversations like we're about to have is what it's all about to me. It's valuable support, and it's through networking that we're going to survive this thing. I can't do this alone, Joe. You can't do this alone, but together we're going to make it through. So if you don't mind, would you introduce yourself to the people out there on the World Wide Web?
All right. Absolutely. My name is Joe Valentin. I'm from Illinois. I am a correctional officer here. I've been in corrections for almost 7 years now. So in correctional years, I got like 2 days in. Essentially,
it's like dog years backwards. Yeah,
compared to you, you're like 300 years old compared to me in this lifetime. No. I started taking my mental health seriously when I lost a buddy. Right. I didn't want to talk about it with anybody. I resented it. I didn't talk about it. My wife saw the issue. My kids, my daughters, they saw the issue with me. They always saw and felt like they were walking on eggshells with me. So for me, when my wife pretty much called me out and said, "Hey,
right,
stupid, you need to talk about this. You got to be honest with it. You need to acknowledge it."
Nice. They're always so on. They sugarcoat. Wives sugarcoat things so tremendously. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't say that's my interpretation of what she said.
Right.
That's what I heard.
You know, that's that. I'm sure that's pretty close to what my wife told me. Hey, you're no good with people no more. You need to figure it out, or this house that we live in is going to be empty. So figure it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's one thing she also said that I've changed, right? And I know we're going to get into this later on. And she saw that Joe changed from being an extrovert, being the life of the party, being funny, talking to everybody. Once I got into corrections, I mean, you turn into a troll. You turn into an introvert in a sense of not wanting to meet new people. And it was bleeding into my family. Right. And it wasn't until I found your book, shout out to When the Home Becomes a Housing Unit, guys, by William Young, good guy.
I heard he's an ass.
When I opened that book, I read it. I didn't think really anything of it the first time I read it. I'm like, oh, this is good. This is very informative, very educational, written by a dude who's in corrections. And when I read it to my wife, wow, we both cried. It was by far one of the most emotional book discussions we've had. And now I just read it, take notes, read it, tell everybody about it, read it, take notes. So, So like you said, I am an advocate for mental health, for correctional, and having staff be more honest about what we deal with and acknowledge that we're not okay. Right. We need to talk about it. So, yeah.
Guys, if you have questions for Joe or myself, leave them in the comments below. And if you feel like supporting the channel, I do have a super chat feature on the channel that will that all that money I put right back into the channel. And then it helps your questions jump up to the top if you have a question as well. Keep those blue hearts coming. You guys are putting them in the comments. That's awesome. Joe, we had a couple of conversations about why you were so hot and heavy into mental health and kind of how you got started.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that a little bit more, but I have to ask everybody first, because nobody grew up playing correctional officers and convicts in their neighborhood, right? So I want to know what led you to this profession. Why did Joe get into corrections?
Well, like every other kid.
Why did you smirk before you smirked before you started your answer? You're like, okay.
Like every other kid, when we're 5, we dream about being a correctional officer.
Right.
And
I actually did. Yeah.
Really? No, I did not. I was actually in sales. Got my degree in communication with a minor in marketing.
Nice.
My bachelor's. And so for me, I was wanting to be in sales. And when my book of business fell through, I had to start all over. I had to rebuild. And that was the first time in my life I realized you don't have it all together and you're getting ready to have your first kid.
Right.
So we moved back from Cincinnati, Ohio, back home here to Illinois. And the rebuilding process started. Right. And that was the first time that I was from scratch. Like I genuinely felt defeated. And my wife will say that was when the mental health side of Joe kind of started coming out, when it comes to my anxiety of how am I going to provide, my depression when it comes to that I'm a failure as a father, as a new husband. So for me, when you apply to be a correctional officer in Illinois, you go, you're on a wait list for a year. You test, you're on a wait list for a year. It was a week until my expiration date.
Oh, wow.
They called me. So I
Nice.
wasn't expecting the phone call. And that's when Joe acknowledged it and said, yeah, let's go be a big boy and go be a correctional officer. Because that's all what I wanted to grow up to
Nice.
be. So yeah.
Nice. That's I think that's all of us. I think we were all floating around through life. And that's
Yep.
why I say corrections is a calling, because there aren't a lot of people that, I mean, there may be some people that were going to school for criminal justice and they want to get into law enforcement, a police department, sheriff's department, and they said, you know what, I'm going to take this first step into law enforcement, going to corrections. And then they intend to get out as soon as they can, but corrections is a Hotel California, and you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave, you know?
Yeah.
So here we are. But so now you're a correctional officer, you're going about your business, and you realize you're changing a little bit. So what you talked a little bit about your buddy passing away. What'd you notice happening after that?
When my bud passed away, right? I wrote like a note, right, to my family, to my Masonic group, to my kids, to my siblings, to my mom, to my stepdad, to my correctional family, to everyone who I genuinely cared about, to the support group I led for the kids in my community. And my wife saw it and she looked at it as a suicide note. Which I guess, in all honesty, there's probably undertones to it. And so for me, with that discovery, 5% of me was upset, right, that she found it, and then that she told all my local law enforcement buddies who were part of my fantasy football league when they all showed up to my house, not for a fantasy draft, but to see if Joe was okay.
Right.
That was a humbling experience. And yes, I'll be honest, I was genuinely upset at her for about 2 minutes until I realized, losing a buddy. I found out losing him when I took my wife to Comic-Con in Chicago, and she was getting her picture taken with the dude who plays Loki. So Tom Hiddleston, whatever his name is. And she was in line to get that picture taken with him. And then I get a text from a couple buddies. Some of them are actually watching right now.
Nice.
I get a
Hi,
text
buddies.
from a couple buddies. And it was, hey, you good? You good? You hear about our buddy? You hear about the name? And I didn't realize what was happening until I clicked and I did my research and I saw that he passed away. In the middle of 1,000 people, thousands of people.
Right.
I just started crying.
Right.
And I had random old ladies walking up to me who were dressed up as different characters. I had random other people coming up to me, seeing if I was okay. And I just texted my wife and said, he's gone. Buddy's gone. And so she couldn't leave the line to come check on me because, I mean, if you've ever been to like a Comic-Con, once you're in line, you're stuck. And, I just went to the car and I just sat. And then after I cried and got out of my system, I started texting my other friends as well. We started checking up on each other. Right. So when it comes to that turning point for me, it was that moment when I realized I lost my buddy. And it was the moment that my wife found my letter. And it was a moment when the staff wellness team at my facility came to pull me aside and talk to me after I said I wanted nothing to do with them. When you see a group of people coming to talk to you at work, you're going to go do your job. Like I got books to sign, I got individuals to lock up. I got things to do. I don't got time to talk to you right now.
Right.
And I still really wasn't quite honest with my mental health at that time. And it wasn't until my wife literally sat me down and said, you need to talk to somebody and reach out. And at that moment, I said, okay, yeah, sure, I got you.
Right.
I made 6 different appointments. I canceled all 6 of them. If it was running out of gas, if it was no babysitter, if it was too busy, or if it was I forgot. And then I finally took that next step and I said, you know what? Let's do it. And I went into the therapy appointment, right? And I sit down and I look at dude. I go, dude, I'm fine. I don't need to talk to you. I'm fine. Nice. I'm good. You're just listening to me talk, and all you need to do is take my money. Like I have nothing to say to you. And he goes, all right, no, cool. Just go ahead and talk. We can break things down about your dad, about what you do, about everything like that, with what your struggles are, you losing your buddy. Okay. Well, an hour and a half later, he was like, so you seem like you need to do a little bit more talking. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I got nothing. You're right. So, yeah. So that was the turning point for me with my personal mental health. And then I joined the team that
Right.
came
The
and checked
wellness
on
team.
me. Yeah, the staff
Yeah.
wellness team.
Yeah. Talk about the wellness, because you're on the wellness team, and then
Yeah.
you are the editor of the newsletter. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
Tell me a little bit about that.
So what I do is I have a group of people. So first off, once I joined the team, I was a team member, and then what we do is we travel around to different facilities in Illinois, and we check on staff. If there's a suicide, if there is a death, if there was a really bad staff assault, if there was a inmate death that was horrific that affects the staff, we go in, we check on them, right? And so being a part of that, for me, hearing the people's story, hearing my fellow officers' stories, they initially look at you as if you are like the state, or if you are IA or Intel. Like, they look at you, they don't want to talk to you.
Right.
They see you outside of uniform. They don't know what your rank is. They don't know who you are. You're not from their facility, so they're not going to talk to you. And it's not until you break it down, or just tell them, hey, I get you might not want to talk to me, but go check on Young over there.
Right.
He might need to be talked to. So it's cool to be a part of the team. And it's also it's how I cope, in a sense, when it comes to helping other people acknowledge and facing and talking and being louder about, your mental health. So the newsletter, it's something I do as well. I joined the team. That newsletter team was just a regular writer for the state. And then ended up, now that I'm the editor-in-chief of it, so now I really don't have time to write as much. I was doing a review on your book, When the Home Becomes a Housing Unit, and it was like every 5 chapters, I'd break it down, and I'd share it with, and it'd be sent to all the facilities. All the officers had a chance to look at it, and they can read it. Nice. Now I just don't even write. Now I just edit everybody else's stuff, and we put it together with my team, and we send it out. So yeah, it's a joy to be a part of. It's how we reach out and check on other people.
I mean, that's the craziest thing when you talk about mental health and you get into these kind of conversations is everybody's fine. And if you're somehow in any way, shape, or form tied to the agency, people are repulsed. People don't want to open up because they swear that everything gets back and that you're going to be unfit for duty. And it's like, guys, we're throwing you a lifeline, and we're helping you to not drown. And you need to at least start that conversation. I like what you said. You said, okay, well, yeah, this guy's fine. I'm fine. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good that you're fine, but how about your buddy? Or they say, I have no problem dealing with a guy, but go talk to this guy over here. Yeah. He's really messed up. This job's really got him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
always, he's soft. Yeah. You can go talk to him. He's soft.
Yeah. He better go better go work at Amazon. So for me, when I had, kind of the when I got into this kind of career path or this mission, you always had my ups and downs, and I'd be, I don't know if it was depressed or sad or just, I just lost the zeal for life a little bit. And then I noticed that, those dips were getting a little longer and a little lower. And I had to start actually looking at what could be the cause of my mood, what could be the cause of my anger. I mean, I was exploding. I was isolating, like you said. What were some of the things that Joe was doing, that you were doing, that even though your wife has said, hey, look, dummy, you are different, there had to be some things prior to that to where you're like, something's going on here. I'm not really feeling like myself.
Well, you touch about it in your book, When the Home Becomes a Housing Unit, when it comes to how we cancel our appointments with our friends. My basement, I know my lights are off behind me, but it's nothing but Star Wars and Packers gear. And I got my Star Wars arcade, and I got all my toys when I was a kid. And my basement is set up to have people over. Right. So it's one thing that's changed with me is you plan, you think, you want to have people over. And then when it gets closer to that date, you're like, geez, it's a school night. I don't
want Yeah, I do the same thing.
At what point? Because when you go to like a family get together with your spouse, and you kind of give them that look of, hey, it's time to go type of look.
Right.
You really can't do that with your friends when you're all having a good time, because no one's going to catch the cues or care. So for me, it's kind of pulling away from everybody in a sense is what I've done. And I'm getting better at it, but in a sense, it's the thought of overwhelmingly hanging out with other people, right, just gets to me.
I have a buddy that talks about that satellite photo from the United States with all the individual lights all over the place, and he said to him when he sees that, it reminds him of 100,000 correctional officers sitting around a fire pit by themselves, wishing they were with somebody else, but nobody actually wants to get together because we all have that same thought. I mean, hey, let's do this. It's Tuesday. Yeah, let's do something this weekend. I'm asking my wife, I'm like, what's our plans? And then Thursday and Friday roll around, and I'm like, oh, man, I do not want to do. Yeah. I don't want to do anything. And then what happens is you get pissed off because I'm watching life unfold on my smartphone. I'm watching my family get together. I'm watching my friends get together, and I'm doing nothing. But sitting on my couch waiting to go back to the facility. And that's a little. I think that's something that we can all relate to. That tired. We're tired, so we're gonna rest. We're gonna just hang out on the couch on the weekend. But it's not. That's a sign, guys, that the job is starting to weigh on you. It's affected the way that you're behaving on the outside. And that's, when I talk about this mental health, I know a lot of the things that I run into, and you've probably run into it too, is people say, look, I've never been assaulted. I've never had some crazy traumatic thing happen to me. I'm not at home, crying in my closet in front of my gun safe. And so I'm fine. But the reality, that's not always what we're talking about. No. The self-isolation, the avoidance, the irritability, the not trusting other people. Those are all ways that the job has eroded who you were before pinning on the badge. And so when you're talking about the environment and the hit that your mental health takes, your emotional wellness takes, you have to look for the little things sometimes, the subtle little triggers. And this guy says the backwards hat triggers me. Thanks a lot, Alex. This is the beauty part of it, and I'll say this: correctional officers are so cynical. Correctional officers are so silly that you could hand them the answer to life, and if they didn't view you as tough as them, or if you're not a SEG officer, or a lot of people get distracted by my facial hair, they miss the entire message. And those are the people that honestly, the backwards hat, it just pisses people off. Yeah.
I don't like
it. Get over it. Get over it. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about, you slipped it in there, be louder, your slogan, your mantra, your motto.
Yep.
I love this. I love this. Tell me about Be Louder, how it came to be, and for me, when we're talking about dealing with disgruntled officers, when we're talking about officers that think mental health is bullshit, when we're talking about officers that are expelling emotional energy and overreacting to things that don't matter, like my hat, how do we do that? How does Be Louder come into play?
All right, so my mantra, Be Louder. It started from working in corrections with the comments that people just, the moment you want to talk and reach out for help, right? The fear of losing your job, the fear of losing your guns, the fear of your buddies finding out, your friends finding out, your kids thinking you're weak because you have an issue, you thinking that you're broken. That's what Be Louder is all about. So the first step in my mantra of being louder is acknowledging there's an issue, right? That's probably one of the hardest things we can do is acknowledge it and say, hey, my name is Joe. I have an issue, because you think it's like an AA or an NA type thing, right? When it's really not.
Hello, my name is Bill and I have PTSD. Hi, Bill.
Yeah. Hi, Bill. Right. And so it's one of those things that stigma that we face in our environment, in our career choice. It makes you feel weak when you say you have depression or anxiety. And the whole thing with being louder is acknowledging that you're not weak, is acknowledging that you're actually stronger, and actually acknowledging that you're not broken. You're human. And in our field, we don't really, our humanity kind of leaves us in a sense when it comes to talking to our kids, talking to our buddies, talking to our spouses, talking to our families, because of the environment we're in.
Right.
So that's already been taken away. And the moment we start feeling something of depression or anxiety, or in some senses PTSD, it's weakness. You know, you're broken. There's something wrong. So acknowledging it is the first step. Facing it, that's the scariest, right? Facing the fact that you have an issue. You're not broken, but facing the fact you have an issue. Right. When we do that, if we do it alone, you drown. Fact. You can't argue that with me at all. I mean, I know it's my opinion, but my opinion is if you face your depression.
No, on this show, everything we say here on the show is fact. You can, they can check it out. Yeah. We're the subject matter experts. No, and that's why I do this live stream when my wife is not home, so I can say whatever I want without repercussion. You know what I mean? Listen, I know you joke, but here's the thing, guys. Peer support, super important. Yeah. Lived experience. You can sit down, you can read a book about corrections. You can have a master's in criminal justice. I don't care about any of that. In fact, I've got this video I'm working on what the experts need to know about correctional officers. Number one is we don't give a shit. We don't care that you worked in a jail as I had a guy on LinkedIn one time, and LinkedIn's a super fun spot for administrators to make officers feel small. Yeah. But the guy told me I put up a post about mental health. Been there, done that. He said, been there, done that. And he was a intern counselor for like 2 years. I've been there, done that. I was an intern counselor for 2 years. Okay. Yeah. So you know everything that's going on with me. You can relate to me because you read about what a paranoid schizophrenic behaves like, in a clinical setting. Good job.
Yep. Round of applause.
Yeah. Yay. Listen, there's a ton of value with what they do. I'm not saying that research isn't important. I'm not saying that education is not important. It all is important. But there has to be a bridge, right? And when you're going to talk, Joe, when you go talk to correctional officers, and I've seen officers do this, they downplay their experience, their expertise, their education, absolutely, because they don't have some letters behind their name, because they're not, because they're not an administrator, because they're not, a psychologist. Listen, if I need some help, and we're at a starting point, and I'm turning to somebody. I'm not going to go to the EAP lady and say, hey, every time I walk back through that shower where I did CPR on that kid, just the smell triggers me. She's not going to know what that smell is.
No.
But you, Joe, you know what that smell is. The people in the chat, they know what that smell is. They know the sound of a door slamming against the door frame. Yep. And so... guys, I don't want you to be discouraged. If you're out there and you're trying to beat this drum and you're trying to talk to people and you're trying to be louder what we're talking about, don't downplay your experience. You are put in that position to help your fellow officer, whether it's a physical altercation or an emotional altercation. You are supposed to help them through that. And that's what I want people to understand. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to I didn't mean to interrupt. Please proceed.
I like the different voice ranges.
Thank you. It's inflection.
We have a very good voice act. I know that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I'm going to narrate. I'm going to narrate your book, Joe, when it comes out.
Okay. So not only do we acknowledge that we have an issue and we're not broken, we talk about it, right? No, we face it, and now we're going to talk about it, because when you talk about it,
right,
that's the overwhelming thought of people finding out as well. Right. And it goes back to full circle to acknowledging. I talk about it all the time with my daughter. We have a special code word we use. She sees when I'm overwhelmed and she's overwhelmed, she'll look at me. The other day I got a phone call about something that happened, and she could tell on my look while I was drinking my coffee. She was, Dad. She's gonna be mad if I say the code word.
Don't say the code word. Don't say the code word.
Let me think.
Just say
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
So she looked at me and she was, Dad, Darth Vader. I look at her and go, what's up, kid? You good? She goes, no, you, Darth Vader. Talk to me. What's up? So she helps me realize and acknowledge that I'm not weak. and she's not weak either, right? Because
Right.
she talks to people too. You know, she goes rock climbing, and that's how she copes and handles her anxieties that an 8-year-old faces.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and at the end, once we acknowledge and we face it and we talk about it, now we can be louder than those negative people around us
Right.
who say you're weak, William, just because you have depression and anxiety.
Right.
Just because you sleep a little bit longer because you need to sleep,
Right.
because you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're drowning, you're weak, right? Which isn't the case. And we need to acknowledge that more and be louder, because you never know in a situation. If I have a day in and you got 25 years in, and then you have some bearded looking hobbit guy talking about being louder and acknowledging your mental health, right?
Right.
If I'm one day in, I'm going to look at the dude with 25 years and I'm going to say, I'm going to follow his lead,
Right.
because he's been here longer. He knows more. And
Right.
then that moment, that person with the day in needs help. They need to talk to someone. They're drowning and, you know, they're overwhelmed with the anxieties and their life changing, and they're getting ready to get a divorce because the wife's saying they've changed or their spouse is saying they've changed and their
Right.
kids don't talk to them anymore. They're going to look at that 25-year guy and say, well, he can do it, versus
Right.
the dude who has 7 years in who's saying, acknowledge it now, be louder now,
Right.
talk about it now. Because I know a lot of guys who, if they could go back, they'd be more honest with it about themselves too. And
Right.
just, that's the whole mantra behind being louder, is just acknowledging it, facing it, talking about it.
I love that, and I don't think people understand the impact that they have, like you said, on newer staff, looking up to them. You have a situation, or just the environment. I don't even listen. We can all talk about assaults. We can talk about, you know, what happened at Anamosa. We can talk about what happened in Minnesota. Those to me are obvious impact points. We can say, yeah, something bad happened to us at our facility today. Now we need to get fixed.
Yeah, and Eric in the comment section, he's right. Absolutely, facing it alone has to be debilitating. It's true, because you drown. And that's one thing I tell people is you cannot face your depression and anxiety alone. You cannot, right? And even if you don't talk to a therapist, even if you don't talk to the staff wellness team per se at your facility, me talking to you via text or phone call,
Right,
or
right.
me and you getting coffee, or, you know, me checking up on my other buddy, that in a sense is being louder and checking up on each other.
Mhm.
And that's reminding us, hey, you know, Joe, you're not alone. You got Young right on speed dial if you need to talk to him, or you have your wife right upstairs. You know, it's one of those things that, yeah, it is impossible to face and deal with alone.
Well, and why would we? There's nothing else inside of our
Pride.
facility that would. And you're right. You're right.
Pride.
But guys, when you have a problem with an inmate, or you have something that you have to deal with in your facility, no plan says go handle this yourself. Nothing in policy says, hey, go into that cell, pull that guy out yourself. You've got your pads on, your shield, you got your electric glove, you're doing all these things. Nothing says, you know, hey, we have radio. Why do we have a radio? To call for help. Why do we have alarm systems? To call for help. Why do we have cameras? So somebody's watching us to help. But then when it comes to our emotional health, when it comes to our mental health, when it comes to dealing with our friends, our family, our children, our wife, we're like, nah, we got it. I can do this by myself.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's totally crazy.
Yeah.
And it's you're right, dude. It's pride. It's pride, and it's the culture.
And you never know as well, kind of like what Scott's talking about in this text as well. You never know if you reach out and say, hey, you know, my name is Joe. I have an issue. I have depression and anxiety, right? If you acknowledge it and you talk about it, you never know that person to your right or to your left,
right?
They could be struggling with the same exact thing
right.
you're going.
You never know who's listening.
And because they don't want to talk about it, because they don't have that support system, or they don't have that confidence to acknowledge it, if they see you do it, they could very well step up. You could very well save a life if you talk about it. Now, like he also says, you're going through different things. Not what is overwhelming for me might not be overwhelming for you.
Right.
We all have different pressure points, and that's key to understand as well.
Yeah, that's super important. And that's and again, when I talk to people, I relay this to physical as well, because that's what all we understand is pound things and break things.
Yeah.
If you have a situation where I can physically overpower somebody, but Joe can't, I don't get mad at him for not being able to do that. I help him. I step in and help him. So if you have a situation to where I'm not okay with something, but Joe is, then Joe has an obligation. He's taken an oath to help me through that situation.
Yeah.
This is, you guys, you have to look at this the exact same way. Why would you? We always say, "Oh, I got your 6. I got your 6." But do you?
That's including the mental health.
Say that again. Say that again.
We're all gonna listen. I'm gonna lean into this. You're gonna lean
Right.
in with me.
Let's do it.
That is including your mental health.
Mental health.
The mental health. Yeah.
That is. Yeah. People don't. But you know why though? It's scary. It's scary to win for guys who are like, oh, look at me. When somebody says, hey man, I'm not okay, or I don't know if you've ever been in an office, you're sitting, you're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden the dude's crying in front of you, like welling up, crying, and and at first you're like, oh, what's happening?
Away.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit the vending machine real quick. You want anything, dude?
I need a smoke break. Yeah,
but every person, every correctional officer has a breaking point.
Yep.
And you are fooling yourself if you think that you can make it through this profession without it affecting you in some way, shape, or form. And this part here, this be louder. In fact, I want everybody put be louder in the chat, because we're going to spread this everywhere across the globe. Be louder. Start putting it in the chat and do that in your facility. Be that example. To sit down in that office, to sit down in that housing unit, to interact with those officers and say, you know what, that was messed up what I saw. Yeah. That I do have trouble sleeping. A lot of people ask me, hey Bill, how you doing today? I'm like, I'm terrible. And I had one of our that's because I'm serious, dude. I'm barely hanging on.
Hey, yo, how are you?
We have this great mental health lady. And I usually, when I roam through the halls, I'm usually singing because I love the acoustics. And she stopped me. She stopped me one day and she goes, are you okay? I said, sure. Yeah, I'm fine. She goes, you're not singing today. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. I said, you know what? I'm actually not okay, but I will be tomorrow. So, get with me tomorrow. But people notice those little changes in your behavior. And so if your fellow officer, if you're, I love the hashtag be louders, guys, keep them coming.
Thank you.
If your spouse, if your friend, if they say, hey, something's different, something's wrong, maybe you should go talk to somebody. And it's even harder for a officer, like myself. I had a situation where, I made it 17 years into my career before I'm down on my knees doing CPR on a kid.
Wow.
And I wasn't okay after that. And but I'm the guy who writes the books. I'm a guy that talks to other people about being okay. People message me and say, hey, what should I do? And I say, well, you need to go talk to somebody, get some help. Yeah. And here I am totally disregarding my own plan, my own, suggestions. And thankfully, I work with some really good people that said, Bill, you're not okay. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. They said, no, you're not. You need to get a hold of EAP right now. And I said, okay, I will when I get home. They said, no, like right now, here's my phone. And I'm like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. And I did, and it was awesome. And it was a great help for me, and it's a great place to start. Guys, if you have peer support, if you have EAP, think of that as like emotional Wikipedia. Like, that's not where you're probably going to stay with your therapy and your healing, but it's a great place to start. And there are resources at your facility. There are people in your facility, even if it's not an officially sanctioned peer support. You guys all know the people that you work with at your facility that you could talk to about these kind of things, and that's where you need to start.
And it's one thing to also talk about as well, that no matter what that 25 or 30-year guy says, or the young cat who's trying to act like a 20 or 30-year guy and who says, just leave work at work and home at home.
What? That doesn't work?
Yeah, I'm going to lean.
No, but we say it all the time.
Work at all.
Do it again. Move in closer.
It doesn't work at all. It's always going to drip into it. It's always going to bleed into it. Every single time. I treat at times my daughters like inmates. Like I don't even. You talked about it in your book as well. You know, that moment when you're hearing everyone argue, you're hearing everybody fight, and you're just like, hey,
Right.
stop, enough. Yeah. Right,
break it
Go
up.
to your room, take it in, lock it up. Right, like we all have that that mentality, and then we have that guilt. You also talked about it in that chapter as well. That guilt of why did I go to work and I didn't close that conversation with my spouse?
Right.
Because now that's all you're thinking about it, and you got 8 hours to do, and you don't know if you're going to do 16. But at the minimum, you're going to do 8, and then now your kids are scared of you. Now they don't know if they're going to talk to you when you get home. It just builds, and when you don't. If I could tell anybody who starts corrections now, going in tonight as your first night, right? Find a hobby, find something to do.
Other than push-ups.
Other than
push-ups.
Yeah, we don't do
and
push-ups.
MMA.
Yeah,
no,
I don't do push-ups. No,
I did 3 today. Three today. Yeah, somebody in one of my videos called me fat, and so I've like, you know what, I'm going to do 3 push-ups.
You're beautiful.
And
you're beautiful, Bill.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I love the hat. Just for the record, I love.
Well,
the
thank
hat
you.
On point today. Yeah, you know, just acknowledging that you're going to bring it home is big. You know, acknowledging that you're going to mess up, you're going to drop the ball as a father, as a parent in this field. You're going to change. You're going to be probably short-fused. But that's one thing me and my wife do is we have a rule that we kind of set because she's a teacher. So sometimes it could be the same exact type of situation.
Exactly,
being a teacher now.
Yeah.
But we have to set 10 minutes time every day when we see each other. She might not know what I'm talking about, and the same for me when she talks, right? But we have that 10 minutes that I set for me and then that she sets for her about breaking down our day and or what we're getting ready to go to work with. We just get that vent session.
Right.
Once that 10 minutes is up, don't talk about work. Done. Over it. Try not to bring it up. You know, it's important because that opens that door for communication and honesty at the same time, and acknowledgement when it comes to what we face behind the walls.
One of the biggest things that people, you know, that I said too is, you know, I can't talk about stuff at home because they don't understand what it's like to work in our facility. They don't understand what it's like to be me, but that is actually pretty dangerous. And if you have a spouse, you have a loved one, you have children, you know, that they may not know what it's like to work in a facility. They may not know what it's like to be inside, to live under the constant threat of violence, but they do know you. They do care about you. They do love you, and they want to do whatever they can to help. And the only way that they can know how to help is if you share. If you tell them, hey, tonight I don't want to go to your sister's house. I'm gonna stay home. I need to stay home and finish season 4 of Community, just for my mental health. And but you can't do that every time.
No.
But being honest, this is everybody says another one I love. Ready for this?
Really, man.
It's just part of the job.
Yeah.
It's just part of the job. And part of the job is taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. And
Absolutely.
so being able, it doesn't matter how strong you are physically. It doesn't matter how fast you can run. It doesn't matter how many push-ups you can do. When this job catches up with you mentally, when this job catches up with you emotionally, you're in the same boat as the rest of us. And you're going to have to deal with that shame, that guilt. Now now being, you know, all of us are super tough guys, tough gals. And now what are we, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're just you know, you said several times we're not broken, but we're injured. Yeah. And you would need to, you know, you had a physical injury, you break your arm, you get punched in the mouth, you fix that, you attend to that, or you're stupid. And this is no different. Yeah. If you're having symptoms, if you're angry for no reason, if you're self-isolating, if you don't want to go, you know, out and hang out with friends and family anymore, if you're, you know, extremely tired and worn out, and you can't pinpoint where this is coming from, maybe look at the profession. Maybe look at some of the things that you've been exposed to. Maybe look at the environment, and then say, maybe it's this job that has changed the way I behave. And that, and that's, I think that's what you're trying to do with Be Louder.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing with my books and saying, hey, look, because I feel like this, Joe. I feel like we train our officers fairly well. I feel like we set them up and we say, this is what the job is going to be, and this is how you handle a medical emergency. Yeah. This is how you do CPR. This is how you restrain a combative inmate. This is how you hold the cuffs with the shotgun grip and all this, a pistol grip. But what we don't do is teach them to live after that stuff. We teach them to be cynical. Everybody's going to lie to you. Don't trust anybody. Inmates are going to try to kill you. And manipulate you at all time. All the time. And then you do that for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week for a decade. And now all of a sudden when your neighbor comes over and he wants to talk or he's sitting on the couch, now you're looking at him and you're wondering, is he being honest? Is he being manipulative? Is he looking at my wife just a little bit too long? Is the people that you just stop looking.
It's bleeding home. Right now,
what?
It's coming.
But I left it at work, Joe.
No, I left it at work. Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah,
it's bleeding home, son. It's coming home, and now you look at everyone else around you as if they're the issue. You piss excellence, I'm sure. Right. Like there's not an issue with you.
Right.
You're not bent. You're not damaged. You're fine, and we're not. It doesn't. No matter how much training. Any type of academy, police academy, correctional academy, they're never going to mentally prepare you for what you do and what you go through. Right. You're right. I want everybody to write this down. And this is it. So everybody grab a pen and put this in the chat. Here it goes. This is what I want you to carry with. The skills that they teach us to survive on the inside destroy us on the outside. Yep. Teaching us officer safety. Wow. Cloaking cynicism, cloaking mistrust, cloaking hypervigilance, paranoia, in a term called officer safety, in a term called situational awareness, and then not teaching you to how to transition from officer to father and friend. It destroys you. And for us, we think that it's we're doing good because inside we're a rock star. Inside we know how to handle every situation. We can tell a congregation of convicts to move the way we want them to move, but then we lose our shit when our kid won't take out the trash. Because the same techniques don't work on the outside. Yeah, it's so true. Everything you just said right there, because it's gonna come home. And my wife now doesn't even ask if I want to sit to my back up against the wall when we go out to eat. She just knows. Fun, isn't it? Oh no, yeah. She instantly just knows where she sits. The kids knows where they sit. Do you have you gone out on a double date and had to move? We go out and we went out with a couple one time and they sat down in my seat, right? And my wife is standing there and I'm just standing at the table, like this. And I'm just honestly, I'm looking at the floor like I'm helpless. I'm like this. Did you have your officer face on? No, I have my wounded, and my wife's like, can you guys flip to this side of the table? And they're like, why? Well, now my wife is like, well, because my husband is super paranoid and thinks that active shooter's going to come in and he has to protect us and watch both. That's not what she said, but that's why, right? Heard, because I have to have my back to the wall to feel safe, and that's not just inside. That's at Outback. That's at the the local steakhouse, and that, my friends, is a way that the job affects you on the outside. Yes, we did, because listen. And you're gonna, and I'm sure you've come across this, and this is such a hard sell to people who are trained to be cynics. Is the job, even looking into this job, even thinking about joining corrections, you've already changed. Yeah, that transition has already started to happen. You start to look at the world differently. You start to look at your neighbors differently. You start to look at, and I'm going to be honest with you, man. This is fun. Joe, I get a lot of messages. I get a lot of comments.
And I don't call a lot of people back because I don't want them to have my phone number. You know what I mean? Or people say, hey, can I send you the book so you can sign it? Well, no, I'm not giving you my address. What's wrong with you?
No, yeah.
But so I'm sitting there one day and I'm going through my messages and I'm like, I'm going to call Joe. I'm gonna message Joe, and I'm gonna give Joe my phone number, and hopefully Joe doesn't come to my house and kill me. And you know, so but something as silly as that for a normal person, for a person outside of this profession, to say, hey, I'm just gonna give my phone number to this dude and see what happens
on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn, right?
On LinkedIn, yeah.
And it seems silly, guys, but because of the way that we are trained to look at the world, we are missing out on conversation, on interactions, on the positive things in life because we think we're keeping ourselves protected, because we think we're keeping our family protected. And
just opportunities of learning from other people as well. Like that's what I've been struggling with as well. Kind of what you said. By entrusting me with your number and your contact information. That was probably mentally, I can only imagine, just that fear of going south or not going south, you know? And when we don't do that at times, we miss out on opportunities when we can learn from each other and network with each other and grow with each other in this career path that we have so gladly chosen to be a part of, you know? You know, you talk about going out to eat with your buddy and your wife and, you know, that couple. My biggest fear when I go out, I can't stand movie theaters. Like the thought of going to a movie, but I feel like I'm trapped in that movie theater.
Sure.
I want to go see movies. You know, there's so many new. I always look at my wife, hey, let's go see a movie. And then when I'm there, like I am just the entire time I'm looking at all my exits because I feel like I'm in the cage. And then just in case something does pop out, you know, my anxiety is going for the first 30, 40 minutes of the movie. And then I finally calm down, you know, and then I'll hear something or I'll see someone get up and I'm just mean mugging them instantly as soon as they're walking. I'm watching them go to the exit. You know, it's just small things.
I could kill that person. If that person got up, I could kill that person. You know, you're right. And Joe, that's such a great example because guys, that is how the job. Well, that's how I keep myself safe, situational awareness, because the guy, the Batman movie, he went and stop it. Stop it.
He uses deep voice right there, guys, for that one.
Stop it. That is not. That is a possibility, but it's not a probability. You know, the mass shootings, they're scary, they happen, but your chances of being involved in one are really slim. But because our world is dark and scary, then we think the world is dark and scary, and and it's not. It's we deal with a very tiny slice of the population, and then we treat everybody as if they were a part of that population.
Everybody a part of our life pays the price when it comes to us being in this field at some point because we take it out on them. Right?
Say that again, because that's huge, dude. I don't think because I'm going to be at work, Joe, and I'm going to say, Joe, this job don't affect me, Joe. I love this, but say it again. Who does it affect?
Everybody a part of our life pays the price for what we do. Mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically.
Right.
Everybody pays the price. Yep. Your kids are going to see you. Your spouse is going to see you. Your parents, your in-laws, your cousins, your friends from the outside, they're all going to see. And then they're all going to learn over time. All right. Joe's probably not going to be here today. Or Bill just said, you know what? He looks a little grumpy today. He's not singing down them halls. I'm not going to talk to him today. Right? You know, just everybody around us pays that price. And when we don't acknowledge it and be honest, and like what you said a little bit ago, just being honest with your friends around you about what you're going through, of why you're canceling, of why you're going through this, of why you need to sit where you need to sit. Just being honest and communicating and acknowledging is not a sign of weakness. Like the stigma that we deal with behind the walls, it's a sign that you're acknowledging, and that you're accepting of it, and you're facing it, and you're talking about it, you're communicating with it. You know, it's just
One of the best things I ever did was take people on a tour of my facility. And if there's, people out there and they're looking for ways to say, hey, how can I get my friends and my family to understand what it is that I go through? Take them on a tour. And if you don't want to, I'm not going to walk my wife through a correctional facility. What, you fucking crazy? Then have somebody else do it. I took 10 people through. It was my dad, some of my friends, a couple cousins, and they were floored. They, some of them, after we spent about 2 hours inside, when we left, some of them just left. They didn't even say goodbye. They just left. A couple of them said, dude, I get it. Like, holy shit. And then, the inmates, they're barking, they're flexing, they're, one of the craziest things that they saw, we kind of stepped into one of our interlocks and they saw a female officer walking through the day room by herself. And they said, well, where's the other officer? I said, there is no other officer. Mm-hmm. And that was so crazy for them to watch an officer be in the midst of an open day room, of an open housing unit, and not have any help. They thought it was crazy. And then one of my buddies said he had nightmares about the place for a few days.
Wow.
After 2 hours in there. 2 hours. And then you wonder why when I go to a holiday, I just want to sit on the couch and be quiet. I'm listening. I love you guys. I love being there. But shit, man, some of the stuff we deal with, you just need some time.
Yeah.
You just need some time.
That decompressing time is important.
It's very important.
That we don't realize we need when it comes to driving to work and driving home. Everyone makes fun of me and gives me shit. I leave at 2:00. I don't got to be at roll call till 2:45 is when it starts. Right. So I live literally 2 minutes away from my facility. I need that 30 minutes to get mentally prepared before I walk in that door.
Right.
When I get home, I'll stay parked in the garage for about another 10, 15, 20 minutes just to calm down.
Yep.
Because that's how I try to attempt to wash my facility off of me, that mental mindset, so I don't bring it in and take it out on my family. Now, again, I don't piss excellent, so it's never really going to fully happen.
Right.
But at the same time, that is how I try to cope and try to handle not letting it bleed in when it always does. But still, you can try to de-escalate it a little bit.
No, you minimize the effects, and that's what you can't. Yeah. You're not. Nobody's going to prevent this. You're going to minimize the effects, and having that transition period is super important. My wife says the same thing. She goes, "What do you get ready to go taxi your plane?" Yeah, I am. I need time to transition from home life to personal life or professional life, and you can't. I never understood the people that are running into the facility 1 minute before the shift starts. Like, just leave a little bit earlier. You have to get mentally prepared for what you're about to face throughout the day.
Yeah.
And
you
and
talked about that as well, though, in your 10 Commandments you just did, your part 2.
Yeah. Because it drives me crazy. And I, not only just for me being, relieved late all the time, but I just don't understand why people function that way. And to separate. When you're looking at separating professional life from personal life, that extra 10 minutes in the garage, that 17-minute commute, that 45-minute commute, whatever you have, that hitting the gym on the way home, that's important to have to say, work stops, and now I got to transition to home life. That doesn't mean that you stop thinking about work. That doesn't mean that all of the things that you've dealt with go away. But what that means is you're coming up from the deep. You're trying to transition. And if you have ever gone from work to an immediate engagement afterwards, then you know what we're talking about. Like, how hard is it to transition from putting out a literal fire to serving up a piece of birthday cake? Like, it's insane, And so having that transition period is super huge. Joe, if people want to get involved, if people are milling around their facility and they're like, hey, I listen to Joe, I listen to you guys, and this is something that I want to be a part of. I want to be part of this Be Louder campaign. Yeah. How can they get started? Like, what are some easy ways for an officer to help start motivating people to start being that louder voice amongst the dissenters?
I think the first thing you can do is acknowledge that you have an issue personally, right? Is acknowledge that, this place is always going to affect me on the outside. And if I don't be louder and acknowledge it and talk about it, I really can't be a voice for other people around me. Right. If I don't say, hey guys, I talked to somebody myself, I talked to a therapist. You want to talk to me? Like, I feel like if you want to get involved, a simple way is just by asking, sending that text, going out for coffee, saying, hey, Billy, you want to get some coffee this morning? Just real fast. I'm getting ready to take my kids to school. And after that, you can get some coffee. Right. Simply just checking and communicating on somebody. Showing up to that event, even if everyone's getting together and they're going to have a crazy night, even if you show up for 2 minutes, 3 minutes and check up on your people, that's what being louder is about, is just checking up on your people who you are part of, who you keep a part of your life. And reading your book, has completely changed my perspective on myself, because I don't think you realize the impact your book had on me when I read it for the very first time. When I read it with my wife and we both were in tears. That was that breaking point. Like you said, we all have our breaking points. Right. That was that for me. After the note, after my buddy passed, reading your book for me is what mentally made me acknowledge there is something going on. And that's when I took the step further and I dived into it. I believe every facility should have access to your book. I believe every correctional officer should have that a part of their training when it comes to acknowledging and breaking it down. Because like I said, no training academy on this universe is ever going to mentally prepare. The only way you can mentally prepare what we deal with is by working in the field, is by showing up at your facility. So reading that book, eye-opener. When the Home Becomes a Housing Unit, guys, by William Young, is available on Amazon.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks for the plug.
If you guys need to find that book, it's there. He also has a new book called The Nothing That Never Happens, by William Young. You can also follow your YouTube channel, Just Corrections. You can follow my Be Louder with Joe on Facebook. You can follow Anthony Ganji with Tear Talk. For me, there are certain people out there who you want to associate yourself with and learn from. Like you said, by me and you reaching out and talking to each other, who'd have thought that we'd be talking here right now, learning from each other and helping others understand and being louder and acknowledge the fact that there's issues out there. Who'd have thought by reading an article on Anthony Ganji's website and Tear Talk, it helps educate people far more than we want to acknowledge, because we feel like it's weakness. It's back to that. It's back to the pride. It's back to weakness. It's back to thinking that you're broken and everything is going to go wrong if you acknowledge that there's sources out there available for you to learn and to educate yourself from. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, I don't even remember what the question was. I'm humbled.
I fell asleep for a second.
It got a little warm in here. You blacked out. I was going to say Darth Vader. Darth Vader. Stop.
Sorry. Got chills.
I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of Be Louders in the comments, Joe. A lot of blue hearts in the comments. And if they want to find you, where can they find you?
Be Louder is on Facebook, so it's at Be Louder with Joe. My Twitter is Young Jedi Dad. So
such a nerd.
Yeah. My Facebook, my LinkedIn, it's Joey Valentin. So yeah, there's ways that we can connect with each other and learn from each other and talk about what we face. I'm still working on a YouTube channel. I got nothing on that, but that's still in the works. So yeah, pretty much Facebook at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to interact, to meet. And me and Joe will be active in the comments here. If you guys will keep checking them back and forth, if you have any questions or if you have any questions for Joe or want to know how to get started, when you go out, when you go to your facility tomorrow, we're going to challenge you to start being that voice, absolutely. To be louder than those that are living in denial, that are being destructive to those around them, and just be louder. I don't know. There's and before we go, I see you have a shirt there.
Oh, I do have a shirt. Hold on.
Yeah,
let me move this.
yeah. How does William Young, how does myself get a Be Louder T-shirt that I can wear? Because I like. Do you have them in black? I like black T-shirts.
I got them in black. You let me know your shirt size, and I got you. I'll send one your way. I will not be there personally to deliver it, but I'll send one your way.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
I'm gonna take you up on that. I'm gonna text you after the show, and I'm gonna take you up on that. All right. Well, Joe, do you have any parting words for these people? We're gonna send them on their way here in a little bit. If you have any parting words or advice or I don't know, anything you'd like to share.
Acknowledge, face it, not alone. Talk about it, and be louder. Because without you, all of us in corrections, without us acknowledging it, talking about it, and facing it, it's gonna be a very, very dark career. We always need to check on each other, and even if it's just saying, "Hey, I'm here for you. You're good. I got your back. I got your six," and not just you physically. I have your six when it comes to your mental health.
Right.
That's important. That's what we can do for each other in
Fantastic.
this career. That's what we can do.
Fantastic. Amen, brother. All right, guys, if you like this video, if you found value in this video, straight punch that little like icon, comment, and share this content with anyone and everyone that you think may be interested. Subscribe and click that little bell so you're notified every time I release another video. And if you're looking for more correctional content, head on over to my Facebook page. I'll post a link in the description below so you know where to go. And don't forget to check out my books. It's right back here. When Home Becomes a Housing Unit, and then Nothing That Never Happened, both available on Amazon. And check out Joe and the Be Louder movement on Facebook. I'm going to put the links in the comments and the description also. Guys, it's so important. Ton of information. Be louder, be louder, be louder. All right, guys, that's all I got. Until next time, be smart, stay safe, stay sane, and we'll talk soon.